All right. Hey, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to discuss what witchcraft is and what it's not. So, I have a few books I'm going to share with you guys, since you guys are going to learn about Wicca 101. I'm Moonraven, and I'm going to give some of the um, brief descriptions on witchcraft, which are on the market, of course. So, the first one, of course, is going to be Encyclopedia of Wicca and Witchcraft by Raven Brimossi. And the second one will be from Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. And if you guys can't see them, there we go. These two are a must-have if you definitely are trying to learn about Wicca or witchcraft. Also, the third is my Book of Shadows. So, however, a lot of the terms Wicca, witchcraft, witch, wise one, cunning, folk, medicine, men, healers, sorcerer, wizard, even the term warlock. They're all used, except for warlock, are all used interchangeably, I've noticed, throughout a lot of different contexts and throughout websites, online, throughout different, numerous authors, books even. But truth be told, it really depends on what you prefer to be called. If you want the label witch, with all of its propaganda, all of its misconceptions, all of its past history, hey, if you want to go ahead and own up to the term witch, then go for it. Own it, be it, because we are witches. But some people prefer to be labeled a little bit more on the not so, oh, that person is a devil worshiper, or oh, that person is a non-believer, or that person has no actual religious structure. A lot of the times you're going to get a lot of that, but you have to just remember that inside, a person literally is a lot of judgment and a lot of hate. It's because of the way that it's literally portrayed. There's a lot of misconceptions on the term witchcraft. So I want to definitely, not thoroughly, but roughly, just briefly, not roughly, sorry, briefly describe what witchcraft is in a general sense. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn to what the actual encyclopedia says here. And it says here that witchcraft is as I'm trying to remember what it said, but that's not really helping me at the moment. Witchcraft, European roots, is difficult to define interpretations of what it is and what it is not. Historians have one view and social anthropologists have another. Added to this is the view of the church and the Judaic-Christian society, the merging of agenda with stereotypes. Finally, we also have the perspective of those who actually practice witchcraft today. Not surprisingly, these views tend to be quite different. Among modern practitioners, witchcraft can be defined as the practice of magic and paganism as it relates to the pre-Christian European paganism. The arts of witchcraft include herbalism, divination, magic, ceremonial ritual, healing, potions, and spirit world contact, familiars, elementals, etc. Witchcraft, as depicted by the church during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance periods, is considered by many modern witches to be a deliberate distortion of the facts. The views and the actions of the church regarding witchcraft have kept the historical focus largely upon a period ranging from the 14th through the 18th century. The church regarded witchcraft as a heresy worthy of the death penalty, a diabolical movement designed by the Judeo-Christian devil to seduce people away from Christianity. Many historians and social anthropologists look on this period of witchcraft as a hysteria brought on by many causes, including widespread superstition and the biased perceptions of the inquisitors who orchestrated the persecution of those accused of witchcraft. Many modern witches believe that witchcraft during this time was a misunderstood pagan religion being victimized because its members kept to an older set of beliefs and practices. The movement that led to the persecution of witches began in ancient Rome toward the end of the empire. And then it goes on about the history part and the burning times and roughly a very, very long context of how the church, well, you know what, we'll discuss that in another video because we're just going to discuss what witchcraft is in general. So, to make sure that I covered everything from this book really quick on witchcraft's definition, let's see. It looks like, wow, it's really long. Yeah, I did. Okay, moving on to Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. Now, he describes witchcraft in a different light, similar to that, though, of course. Alrighty. Sorry, going through the history here again, which we will, again, we'll do in a later video, so there's a lot to go in that particular subject. Okay, here we go. The craft is a religion of love and joy. It is not full of the gloom of Christianity with its tides of original sin, with salvation and happiness, possibly only in the afterlife. The music of witchcraft is a joyful one and a lively one. Again, contrasting with the degree like hymn of Christianity. Why is this? Much of it has to do with the Wiccan empathy with nature. Early people lived hand in hand with nature through necessity. They were a part of nature, not separate from it. An animal was a brother or a sister, as was the trees. Women and men tended to the fields and in return received food for the table. Sure, she or he killed animals for food, but then many animals kill other animals in order to eat as well. In other words, women and men were a part of the natural order of things and not separate from it, not above it either. Modern men and women have lost much of, not all of that closeness with nature. Civilization has cut them off, but not so the witch. Even today, in this mechanized, super sophisticated world that this branch of nature, women and men have created, the Wicca and the witches retain their ties with Mother Nature. Witchcraft is, in itself, not necessarily a religion per se, but a way of life. It's a way of life that the indigenous people of European descent basically lived. They lived by nature. They would literally connect to nature to a degree that we can't seem to, I'm not sorry, not we, but people in modern day society cannot seem to comprehend, let alone conceive of in any natural, harmonious way. They can only conceive of it through video games or through fantasy books or through any means that isn't full on hands on, spiritual hands on type of functions. You see, witchcraft is a form of a belief system that everything radiates magic. Magic, back in the days, you have to understand that anything can be magic. And that to these indigenous people, that's what it was. Everything was magic. You know, everything nowadays, we don't really see magic or view it as like the way that the indigenous people did in the old days. We view it as energy. We see it as a particular act that needs to be pushed through action to manifest itself through the astral plane, also known as the ether, to manifest itself in this plane, the third dimension. And then from that, we attain our goal. So, with all of those functions being said, witchcraft is the understanding that one person, being you and or me, can either shape their reality in the form of something positive by means of trance work, meditation, concentration, visualization, and of course, a firm understanding on herbs and what they medicinally do, as well as magically and superstitiously do, particular attributes on what color therapy can do to a person. You know, there are candle spells out there that require particular colors to help bring about a particular emotion inside of a person. You view a red candle, you automatically think love or strength or fast pace type of actions, you know? Hey, even the fire element, because that is what it represents, at least the color. So that's just a little example. But you have to, witchcraft is just the understanding of the metaphysical properties of particular things that are just natural and just here all around us. And a witch is the one, he or she follows a particular traditional set of guidelines that they believe to work for them or their families. And it's been passed down or has just been used, being brand new, fresh to the art itself. And it's an art, you guys. It's a science. It's literally one of those things you have to experiment with. You can't just read about it and then think you know it, because honestly, sometimes those ingredients or that particular method of witchcraft or a spell even or a ritual or just living to particular guidelines that you see fit to ethically live harmoniously with nature, sometimes those don't fit with you, but they do work for the other witch, but they don't work for you. You have to find what fits and what works, and that is what witchcraft is about. It's about finding yourself, finding your place in this world, and connecting to it in a positive way, and helping others along the way, And yes, it's about magic as well. Magic is everywhere, you know? So, with that said, I'm going to explain to you what magic, I'm sorry, not magic, but what witchcraft is in my own personal sense, because I think I kind of elaborated on Buckland's perspective, but as you can tell, I was really passionate about that because that is exactly how I perceive it to be. So, what I have here is witchcraft in many cultures all over the world. This Western indigenous European pagan tradition was known by many names. The wise craft, for example. In Mexico, it's known as brujeria, hexen, cunning craft, which we'll get into later on in other episodes because that's a whole other issue too. Well, that's debatable, as I put in here, so that's good I put that. The craft of the wise isn't like any ancient religion. It's more a belief system that is kept in the family and passed down by word of mouth to teach generations. Known today as hereditary witchcraft for other means, by any other means, the beliefs in polytheism, the beliefs in polytheism, which is the belief in more than one God, and the respect of life and nature, the belief in primordial goddesses and gods, even a goddess mother, then a god of the hunt. The old gods, ones were called by many names. The ones I grew to learn from are the goddess mother Aradia, her mother, the primordial goddess Diana, and the god Cernunnos, the god of the wildlife, vegetation, and the god of the hunt. As he was, down the ages, he's been known for many aspects in nature. The knowledge of medicinal properties, the medicinal properties of herbs, aromatherapy, the healing and magical qualities of stones and crystals, the practice of magic, divination, and communication, virtual world. All traditions of families of the craft have their own sets of personal beliefs when it comes down to their own particular practices, celebrations, the gods, the sabbats, the esbats. The history and the documents of accuracy to old witchcraft have been lost to us, thanks to the burning times of 1692 and before. We only have, that was a period in between that sentence I just said. Now, starting a new sentence. We only have what we can gather from certain artifacts and surviving old family trads, which means traditions, and documents that were found. Thanks to Gerald Gardner, the father of Wicca, he made Wicca alongside many popularly known pagans like the Farrars, Selina Fox, Raymond Buckland, and of course Dorian Valiente, etc. Then around the 1950s is the first published book on the occult. Wicca was written by Gerald Gardner, which is known as his book called Witchcraft Today. And some of our neo-pagan Wiccan texts come from Dorian Valiente, such as the Wiccan Reed, the Chart of the Goddess, and the Chart of the God, and many others. To my perspective and belief on witchcraft and on Wicca is that witchcraft is a science, an art, one's personal practice of attunement through his or her concentration to the connection to the divine and one's higher self. It's about living magically. It's about change. As for Wicca, this is in itself a religion, a new age, also known as a neo-pagan religion that was created by Gerald B. Gardner in the 1950s to fit also today's religious concepts. So people, also known to us as Kawens, are non-magical or non-pagan or religious backgrounds of any kind to nature. So that would be Christians, Catholics, etc. Could accept our ways through viewing as a positive alternative lifestyle. If they were to view this as an actual religion, which is Wicca, it is a religion actually, and you can look it up online. You can look it up in the actual legislation acts too, and there are census for counting the population of Wiccans in the entire world. I mean, the UK has a maximum of over 50,000 Wiccans literally registered under census of 2000, and I think it was 2018 or 2019. But either way, that's a lot. Where was I? Sorry. New Age, New Pagan people. Okay, so viewing as a positive alternative lifestyle. A quick note to add here is all Wiccans are witches, but not all between the two. Am I wrong? Now, again, style that no longer exists today, but we're trying to stay at the rhythm of it to bring it back, you know? And we modernize it as modern day witchcraft. Now, Wicca being a religion for witches, decidingly, if you decide you want a religious structure, you want to have the attunement with spirituality, you want to have that religious structure. I mean, not so much as dogmatic, but still giving you space to breathe and to grow individually by your own choice of spiritual attunement and attainment, of however you decide to do so. Then Wicca, there you go. Now, as for the other terms I previously ascribed to, we're going to talk about the different terms of one's particular label. So wizard also is another term a male witch could use or adopt to themselves if they so desire. Now, there is, of course, wizards in the old days where they would be known as mages, as sorcerers, or even old sages, you know, and they would practice more ceremonial magic. And they consider their magics, instead of like seeing it as light and dark or white and black, they see it more as high magic and low magic. Same with the alchemists. However, we witches, and I can't speak for all of us, but we perceive magic to be both black and white. So it's considered to be in the middle. It's gray, because you can't really determine whether or not this particular spell you do, or I mean, even if you throw out a candle spell, you know, anything can happen. So truth be told, magic is not controlled. Magic is spontaneous, and it is sometimes chaotic. But if you have your intent pure, if you have your concentration and your visualized intent on seeing the outcome already presently at your side in your mind's eye, then the direction of the energy should flow perfectly fine without any disruption. As long as you have belief and you're not doubting yourself and you're not telling the whole world what you did, while subconsciously their negative vibes or their negative views or their disbelief in you becomes psychically attacking your spell or your projective, you know, prosperity of some kind. It literally will take a damper on you. Trust me. Whether they tell you they believe you or not, psychic and their in subconsciousness, literally whatever they feel that they're not telling you is going to attack your spell. You know, it's going to dispel it of its energy, basically. So it's best to keep silent when you do magic. But I will again discuss more about that in other videos. So the term warlock. Okay, now that is very debatable. I've read some things online about how people are trying to bring the term warlock back into a positive light, to where they want to go ahead and adopt that, especially male witches. You know, I mean, hey, if you want to do that, go for it. But the term warlock is an Old English word meaning oath breaker, truth twister, a liar, a traitor, somebody amongst a coven who is banished from their circle because of something they did that was wrong. Again, also too, some connotations. Like to me, I personally, I believe it was my beginner years, like 10 years ago when I was in a certain stage of my life. I used to believe strongly that a warlock was a person who was on the left-hand path of magic and of the practice of the craft, because the left-hand path to me is bad juju. It was, I mean, back then I used to believe it was all negative magic, all manipulative, all not caring about the threefold law, just doing whatever it is you want to do and not caring about the consequences. And that to me was a warlock. And I was wrong. I mean, a warlock is an oath breaker, truth twister, a manipulator, of course, but they're not a person that is literally practicing the left-hand path. The left-hand path is literally a whole different traditional magical technique and set of religious belief, and it's a whole lot of everything. And they would probably look at you very, very stupidly if you could call them a warlock. So I apologize for my ignorance of my younger years as a Wiccan on those who do follow the left-hand path. I don't practice it or care to learn too much more about it, but I think that, to those who practice it, kudos. Again, they don't call them warlocks because they're not warlocks. But the name itself, is sort of springing back up in society, in the magical community, I've noticed. So just be aware of that. There's two definitions to the term warlock. One, a warlock can be a male witch or a female witch. And the other is that it's a term used for those who break the oath that they literally are sworn to when they come into a coven or a circle, or even their own dedication rite if they're solitary. They break their own oath. They're considered to be a warlock. All right, so moving on. There are so many different terms for witchcraft all over the world. Like I said, there's brujeria, and then there's other forms that I can't quite think of at the moment. But remember, witchcraft exists in all cultures all around the world by different names and different terms and different belief systems and structures. But it all is connected in the entire span and web of life because of the fact of we all know there are what connects us to each other throughout the entire world is not just the magic, but the fact that we all believe in a goddess and a god. And we see it as a mother and a father god, being that of fertility and that of the hunt. Whatever the case may be, we're all connected to the very. If you feel this is definitely for you and you want to learn more about what witchcraft and what Wicca and what other paganisms, traditions do and how to practice it and how to become one, then you just sit right there and watch the next lesson after this. But if you're already here, then I guarantee you that one, you're either already on your way to becoming one, or two, you already are. So I will talk to you guys later. Blessed be.